Hello, and welcome back, everyone. We are excited to have you with us today. Get ready for a brand new story that we've been waiting to be tell. Let's dive right in. My name is William, and this is my story. It's been 15 years since I first laid eyes on Nicole, my wife. We were in high school, young, carefree, and madly in love. We married early at 21 against the cautious advice of our parents, who thought we should establish ourselves in our careers first. But our love was strong, and we were determined to prove everyone wrong. Our first years together were straight out of a romantic movie. We traveled the world, lived in a cozy apartment, and supported each other through the challenges of our 20s. I built my company from the ground up, working tirelessly, while Nicole, a talented artist, created beautiful paintings that brought color to our lives. We were each other's rock, and our love only grew deeper. As a few years went by, and our family expanded with the arrival of our twin boys, Ethan and Lucas. They brought chaos and joy into our lives, and Nicole embraced motherhood with a passion I had never seen before. Even when she was tired, you would see the love in her sunken eyes. I worked harder than ever, ensuring my business thrived, so I could provide for my growing family. Life was a whirlwind of diapers, late-night feedings, and board meetings. As the boys grew older, we enrolled them in a prestigious boarding school, hoping to give them the best education. With the boys away at school, the house suddenly felt quiet and empty. Nicole, who was always a social butterfly, struggled with the newfound solitude. But I was relieved to have some peace as my business was going through a rough patch. I needed to focus on keeping my company afloat. It was a regular evening, with just the two of us sitting at the dining table. Nicole looked up from her plate and said, "I spoke to James today." The way she said it made my chest tighten. James, her college friend. The guy who always seemed a little too familiar, a little too comfortable with her. I never made a big deal out of it, but I didn't like the way he looked at her. "Oh, how is he?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "He's doing well," she said, but she wasn't really focused on the words. She was pushing her food around with her fork, like she was working up to something. I waited. Then she glanced at me, hesitant but determined. "You know, he's always been there for me. He understands me in a way that you," her voice trailed off, and she gave me this small, apologetic smile. I put my fork down. My appetite disappeared. "What do you mean, Nicole?" She reached across the table, placing her hand over mine. Her eyes were full of something I couldn't quite name. "Lately, I've been feeling restless," she admitted. "Our life has become so predictable. I love you, but sometimes I wonder, is this all there is?" A familiar guilt crept in. I knew I'd been caught up in work, barely paying attention to anything else. Maybe she had a point. "I'm sorry," I said. "I know I've been distant, but we can fix this. Let's plan something. Take a trip, just the two of us. We can do something spontaneous, shake things up." She shook her head, her expression unreadable. "It's not just about that. James and I were talking about open relationships," she said carefully. "About how they can bring excitement, keep the passion alive in a marriage." I stared at her, feeling like the ground had just shifted under me. "Open relationship? You mean seeing other people?" She nodded, watching me closely. I felt like I was in a conversation I had no business being in. Like I'd walked into someone else's life by mistake. "Nicole," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady, "are you unhappy with me?" She exhaled. "No, Williams, I love you. But love evolves. We can set boundaries. It's not about replacing each other. It's about experiencing more together. It could even make us stronger." I didn't say anything at first. I was too busy processing what she had just suggested, what it really meant. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I looked at her, searching her face. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't some random idea. That maybe this wasn't about exploring or growth at all. Maybe she'd already stepped over the line and was just looking for a way to justify it. I took a deep breath. "Nicole, I love you. But I don't believe this is what makes a healthy marriage." She opened her mouth to argue, to plead, to convince me that this wasn't a betrayal, but something good, something freeing. But I'd already made up my mind. "No," I said firmly. She stared at me for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then, without another word, She pushed back her chair and stood up. I watched her walk away, and as I sat there, alone at the dinner table, I couldn't shake the feeling that this conversation wasn't over. Not by a long shot. In the weeks that followed, I couldn't get that conversation out of my head. I loved Nicole. There was never a doubt about that. The thought of losing her, of our family falling apart, was something I couldn't stomach. But I also couldn't bring myself to agree to something that didn't sit right with me. Yes, my business kept me busy. I worked long hours, sometimes late into the night, trying to build something solid for us. But since when did that justify her looking for something? Or someone else outside our marriage? Was I supposed to just accept it? Pretend it didn't bother me? No, that wasn't love, and that wasn't a marriage I could live with. One calm evening, Nicole and I sat on the patio. It should have been a peaceful moment. One of those rare times when a couple just exists together without the weight of the world pressing down. She turned to me, her voice calm but heavy with expectation. "So, have you thought about it?" she asked. There was no need for her to elaborate. I knew exactly what she meant. I didn't hesitate. "No," I said, my voice firm. "There's nothing to think about, Nicole. My answer hasn't changed." I looked at her directly, making sure she understood. "Agreeing to this? That's like putting a bullet in this marriage myself. I don't care if other couples do it. That's not us. That's not me." Her face twisted instantly, like she had been waiting for me to say the wrong thing. "You're so selfish," she snapped. "You think you can control me? You won't stop me from doing what makes me happy." She leaned in, her words laced with venom. "And if you even try, I swear I'll take you to court. I'll take everything." I just sat there, frozen. This wasn't just a fight between a husband and wife. This was something else entirely. In the weeks that followed, Nicole started going out more, always with her so-called friends, dressing up a little more than usual. The late nights became more frequent, and I started noticing the way she avoided eye contact when she got home. Meanwhile, I found myself alone in our house, sitting in the dim glow of my study, a glass of whiskey in my hand, pretending to be buried in work. Every now and then, she'd waltz in after a night out. She'd drop her purse on the counter, slip off her heels, and smile at me like nothing had changed. "You should go out too, darling," she'd say one night, her voice light. "There's no reason for you to be cooped up here all the time. Live a little, enjoy yourself." I knew what she was doing. She was trying to ease her guilt, trying to justify whatever it was she was up to by making sure I had the same opportunity. But I didn't want that. I had no interest in chasing distractions or pretending I was fine with whatever was happening. So I waited for her to come to her senses, to realize that whatever thrill she was chasing out there was nothing compared to what we had built. But deep down, I wondered how much longer I could keep waiting for her. One afternoon, I was buried in financial reports, barely aware of the world outside my study, when Nicole burst in, practically glowing with excitement. "Guess what? Olivia got into college. And not just any college, the one right here." I always knew she loved me, but I didn't realize she wanted to be this close. To be fair, though, it's a great school, one of the top 10 in the country. I'm so proud of her. I set my pen down and leaned back, letting her words sink in. Olivia was Nicole's younger sister, and I'd always gotten along with her. She wasn't fresh out of high school like most students. She had spent the last 3 years traveling to underdeveloped countries as a model UN delegate. That kind of experience shaped a person, and Olivia had always been bright, full of energy, and ambitious. I knew how much Nicole adored her, so this news clearly meant a lot. Smiling, I glanced at Nicole. "That's fantastic. We should celebrate. Why don't we invite her to stay with us for a while? At least until she finds her footing." Nicole's eyes lit up. Oh, she'd love that. She was already pulling out her phone, dialing before I could say anything else. Olivia moved in a week later. She was a breath of fresh air, and I found myself enjoying her company more than I'd anticipated. We would chat over dinner, and she would listen intently as I rambled about my work, offering a fresh perspective that often surprised me. One evening, I sat alone at the indoor bar, staring into my glass. I wasn't in the mood for company, but Olivia, my wife's younger sister, slid onto the stool beside me anyway. She had that curious look in her eyes, the kind that made me brace myself for whatever was coming next. "So, you and Nicole are in an open marriage, huh? That's pretty wild," she said, not judging, just observing. I let out a slow breath. "It's not what I agreed to," I muttered, my voice heavier than I intended. "I don't know how long I'm supposed to wait for her to come to her senses." Olivia didn't say anything right away. Instead, she reached across the bar and placed her hand on mine, a small but deliberate gesture. "If you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here," she said softly. "I know I'm just the kid sister, but I'm a good listener." Her kindness caught me off guard. I nodded, offering her a strained smile. I appreciated Olivia, but I've got work to focus on. She seemed to understand. Without pressing further, she gave my hand a small squeeze, then let go. I watched her go, then exhaled and turned back to my glass. As the weeks went by, Olivia and I grew closer. She became my confidant, someone I could talk to about my struggles, both in business and in my marriage. Nicole seemed to have less and less time for me. She was busy having the time of her life. When I tried to express my concerns, she would brush them off, telling me to figure it out, and that she had plans with her friends. I found myself seeking solace in Olivia's company more and more. She was always there, ready to listen, to offer a shoulder to lean on. We would spend hours talking, sometimes over a glass of wine, and I began to see her as more than just Nicole's kid sister. When Nicole left for yet another so-called girls' night out, I sat alone in the living room, lost in thought. Divorce had been circling in my head for weeks, but every time I tried to think it through, I hit the same brick wall. What I stood to lose. My company was barely staying afloat as it was, and a divorce would rip through whatever stability I had left. Legal fees, asset division, alimony, any one of those could be the final nail in the coffin, leaving me buried under debts I couldn't climb out of. I was so deep in my own thoughts that I didn't even notice Olivia walking in until she sat down beside me. She looked at me for a moment, her expression softer than usual, like she could see right through me. Then, almost casually, she said, "You deserve to be happy too. Nicole's not the only one who gets to explore. Maybe it's time you did something for yourself." Her words cut through me. I had spent so much time thinking about what I could lose that I hadn't once considered what I deserved. Before I could second-guess myself, I leaned in. Our lips met, and in that moment, I forgot everything. My failing marriage, my financial worries, the years of resentment I had swallowed down. And when we finally pulled apart, breathless, I knew there was no undoing what had just happened. After that first kiss, everything started to blur. Olivia and I gave in to our desires more often than I care to admit. And every time I felt a twinge of guilt, I reminded myself of one thing. Nicole was the one who wanted an open marriage. She was the one who set the rules. I was just playing by them. Nicole, completely unaware of what was happening under her own roof, kept herself busy with her own affairs, literally. I didn't care. I didn't ask questions anymore. I didn't wonder where she'd been or with whom. I had my own distraction that kept me from dwelling on what my wife was doing with other men. With Olivia, everything was intense, almost desperate. We weren't just sneaking around, we were devouring each other, lost in something that felt like both an escape and an addiction. We didn't just make love. We consumed each other in every possible way. Every room in the house became our playground, every corner, every surface, every moment we could steal. It was reckless, but neither of us wanted to stop. And the worst part? I wasn't even sure I wanted to. Days turned into weeks, and my affair with Olivia blossomed. We were discreet, only meeting when Nicole was out on her dates or at work. The more time I spent with Olivia, the more I realized how much I craved her company. She understood me in ways Nicole no longer seemed to, and our conversations were both stimulating and intimate. I started noticing the changes in Nicole, gradually. One evening, she walked through the door, and I knew something was wrong. Her blouse was torn, and she had quickly thrown on a jacket to cover it up. Nicole had always been particular about her clothes. A ripped blouse wasn't just something she'd brush off as an accident. "Nicole, what happened?" I asked. She barely met my eyes as she waved a shaky hand. "It's nothing. Just a stupid accident. My shirt got caught in an elevator." I stepped closer, reaching for her jacket. As I peeled back, there were scratches on her shoulder. That wasn't from an elevator. Are you sure? My voice was calmer than I felt. Because these scratches. I said I'm fine, she snapped, jerking away from me. Just leave it, please. I wanted to push, but I also knew that if she wasn't ready to talk, forcing her wouldn't help. So I let it go. Over the next few weeks, the signs kept stacking up. Some nights, I'd find her sitting in the dark, wiping at her eyes before forcing a smile when she noticed me. Other times, I'd spot faint bruises on her arms or a new excuse for why she was late coming home. She insisted everything was fine. One afternoon, as Olivia and I shared an intimate moment, her phone buzzed with a text from her hall director. She had to rush off to school, excited about moving into her new dorm room. I felt a twinge of sadness at her departure. With Olivia away at school, Nicole and I found ourselves in each other's company more often. It wasn't intentional on my part, just a natural result of being in the same house. I noticed she was going out less, staying home more. She started making an effort, little things like bringing up old memories, asking about my day, even suggesting we dance in the living room like we used to when things were good. There was a time when I would have jumped at the chance, when that kind of intimacy with her would have meant everything. But now, I couldn't force the enthusiasm. I played along when necessary, but my mind was elsewhere. If I was honest with myself, Olivia was where my thoughts drifted. She was what I wanted. Then, one evening, Nicole came home with her wrist swollen, the skin around it darkening into an ugly bruise. I noticed it right away. What happened? I asked, more out of habit than concern. She barely glanced at me, brushing it off with a wave of her good hand. It's nothing, just a dislocated wrist. Her voice was light. I'd rather focus on something else. Let's go out for dinner. It's been a while since we did something nice together. I didn't hesitate. I already have a dinner booked. Her expression didn't change, but I knew she understood before I even said the next part. Not with you. She didn't argue. She just stood there, quiet, absorbing it. And then, without a word, she turned and walked away. I left not long after, meeting up with Olivia like I had planned. It was effortless, exciting. Everything with her felt right in a way that things with Nicole just didn't anymore. And that night, it was exactly what I needed. The next morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee when Nicole walked in. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there, watching me. Then, in a soft voice, she said, "I know you've been seeing someone and I understand." She hesitated for a moment, then added, "I just want to know if you love her. Can you let her go for us? For our marriage?" I looked up at her, startled. I hadn't expected this. I loved Nicole, but I wasn't about to end what I had with Olivia just because she wanted me to. The truth was, Nicole had pushed me to this. She had been the one to introduce the idea of an open marriage, the one who first broke what we had. And when I needed someone, Olivia was there. So, I told her no. I wasn't going to let my lover go. Nicole didn't say anything after that. She walked away, her face unreadable. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. My mind was a mess. What I had with Olivia wasn't just some fling. It's beginning to mean something. The thought of losing her felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. But I also didn't want to lose my marriage. The contradiction was suffocating. Eventually, exhaustion took over, and I drifted off. When I woke up, my nightstand drawer was open, and my phones, both my work phone and the family phone, were missing. As I sat up and scanned the room, panic set in. I got out of bed and walked into the living room, and there she was. Nicole was pacing, her face red and swollen from crying, my phone lying on the couch. She had been up all night. Her voice was raw when she spoke. "How could you? I can't believe this." She shook her head, her hands trembling. "When you went to bed, I took your work phone first. I searched, expecting to find something, and when I didn't, I felt ashamed." She let out a shaky breath. But then I checked the family phone. Her eyes flickered with pain. And that's when I found everything. My stomach dropped. The texts and the pictures were all there, every explicit message, every photo Olivia had sent me. I had never deleted them, and Nicole had seen everything. Her voice broke as she asked, "Is it true?" "Why, Olivia? How long? I need to hear it from you." I exhaled. She had no right to go through my phone. That was our agreement. No invading personal space. She had set these rules herself when she wanted an open marriage. And now she was acting like a victim? I crossed my arms. "Get over it," I said coldly. "You wanted an open marriage. You created this space. I never even thought about another woman until you started messing around. Olivia was there for me. She stayed when you didn't." Nicole let out a broken sob. "Why, William? Why did you do this to me?" Before I could respond, my work phone rang. I glanced at it, then back at Nicole. There was nothing left to say. She had already found out, and I had made my stance clear. Staying here, arguing, wouldn't change anything. So I picked up my phone and left for an urgent business matter. When I came home that evening, Nicole was calm. We barely spoke, and honestly, I was fine with that. I later pieced everything together. Every time Nicole came home with bruises, looking distant and miserable, it wasn't just bad luck or accidents. She was going through problems with the man she had chosen over me. All those nights she shut me out. She was dealing with the fallout of an affair she thought would give her something better. And when that relationship collapsed, she figured she could just slip back into our marriage like nothing happened, as if she could hit some imaginary reset button and erase the damage she had done. The reality is, I might sound cold, maybe even selfish, but I built something with her sister, a connection that, surprisingly, feels natural. And since her sister doesn't seem to have an issue with it, why should I be the one to walk away? After days of avoiding each other, of living in silence, Nicole finally broke. She begged me again, pleaded for me to end things with her sister. She swore she would never bring up such betrayal again, promised she had learned her lesson. But words are easy. Trust, on the other hand, isn't something you can patch up overnight. I told her plainly, if she wants me to even consider fixing this marriage, she has to earn that trust back. And that's not something I can just hand over, because she says the right things. Since then, she's been trying. Doing the little things she used to do when we first got together. Cooking my favorite meals, checking in on me, trying to make me laugh. I can see the effort, but I don't know how much of it is real, and how much is just desperation. Is she truly remorseful? Or is this just another phase she's going through until she feels comfortable enough to slip back into her old ways? I'm watching, but I'm not fully committing. Not yet. Now let me ask you, if you were in my shoes, what would you do? Would you take her back and try to rebuild? Or would you let her feel the weight of her own choices? I want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below, and let's talk about it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.